What's up, guys? It's Matt from Merc Patriot News. Right next to me is Romeo. And today we have a special guest. It's Derrick Evans. He is running for Congress in West Virginia. We're going to be interviewing him. He's also known for something else, but we're going to let him tell the story about that and tell his bio about what he's doing when it comes to running for office. All right, let's go ahead and bring him out.
Awesome.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Romeo. Thank you guys for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, so as you guys said, my name's Derrick Evans. I am running for Congress in West Virginia's 1st congressional district. Before we got here, though, I ran for the state house in 2020. I won my race. I was the first Republican to win my district in over 98 years. I won a landslide victory. And then I went to the Capitol on January 6th. I saw the presidential election was being stolen, not only from President Trump, but from the American people. So I went to the Capitol on January 6th. I was 100% peaceful, nonviolent, non-destructive. I was never accused of those things. I mean, I videotaped everything. So I actually have a video pinned at the top of my social media feeds. People can watch for themselves to confirm everything I'm getting ready to tell you. I was on the east side of the building. I didn't see any violence or destruction that day. Didn't know any of that even took place. I walked through an open set of doors, the East Columbus doors. I immediately went over to a police officer. I thanked this police officer for his service. I said, "God bless you, sir. Thank you for your service." He gives me a friendly fist bump, inviting me into the building. I spent less than 10 minutes inside the public rotunda area, just reminding everyone to be peaceful, nonviolent, non-destructive. And I chanted freedom. I chanted, "We want Trump." That's what I'm guilty of at the end of the day. Long story short, I walked back out the same set of doors I entered, and I was facing 24 years in prison. I had an 18-month legal battle. I ended up going to prison for 3 months. I did 8 days of solitary confinement because I refused the COVID vaccine while they were holding me hostage. I got out around this time last year. I got out in October of 2022. Spent a little time with my family, just kind of making up for lost time and just trying to process everything. Throughout that time, I was trying to get Republicans to help us and realize really quick that they didn't have the courage to step up and touch this. And so on January 6th of this year, January 6th of 2022, I announced that I'm not only going to run for my old seat in the state house, I'm going to run for U.S. Congress, because I'm going to take this battle to their front door the same way they brought it to mine. And that kind of leads us to where we are today.
That's awesome to hear. Doing a little research, just Googling you would think you were the main conspirator on January 6th. And all you did is walk into the rotunda and thank some cops. And that sounds like about it. And you said you backed Trump. And the write-ups online are completely unfair. They're just, who are these written by?
Oh yeah, and my favorite of all of them is honestly is not even my personal Wikipedia. And yes, there is one that just bashes me or whatever. That's not even my favorite. My favorite is if you go to FCI Milan, as in Milan, Michigan, the prison in FCI Milan, Michigan. You go to that, it's the prison Wikipedia, and they have a list of notable inmates. And on this list, you will see literally members of Al Qaeda. Do you guys remember the Christmas bomber back in the early 2000s had bombs in his shoes and everything?
Yeah.
He's in that prison. The alleged leader of the Sinaloa cartel is in that prison. There's mass murderers. The child molester who was the coach of the U.S. gymnastics teams or whatever. I don't remember his name. He's in that prison. And then you see me listed on there. So they put me in the same category as these people on the Wikipedia as a notable inmate. It's absolutely comical. First of all, it's crazy they even threw me in prison. It's crazy I was facing decades in prison. It's crazy they threw me to prison with those types of people, and then they actually list me beside of those people as if what I did is as bad as trying to bomb our country or harming little children in our country. It's absolutely despicable.
Well, you have political aspirations, so of course they want to dirty you up as much as they can.
Absolutely, that's their goal.
If you don't mind me asking, what were you actually charged for?
Yeah. So you guys can ask me anything. I'm an open book. So it was weird for me. So I was arrested January 8th, the very first day of January 6th arrest. So I was arrested 2 days after January 6th. One of the first people arrested. So mine is unique because typically they will find a crime and then they'll investigate it and then they'll arrest the person. But what they've done in January 6th, and even more specifically, the early people such as myself, I was the only elected state legislator in the country to be arrested for January 6th. So they wanted to arrest me as soon as possible just so they could turn around and say, see, it wasn't Antifa. It wasn't the feds. There's an elected member, elected Republican that we've arrested. So they came and arrested me on January 8th. They charged me with 2 misdemeanors. They raided my home. That's a whole other story. They raided my home with my children, everything here. I had 2 misdemeanors. Then they came back and added 2 more misdemeanors. Then they came back and offered a verbal plea deal of choose your misdemeanor, we'll drop our other charges. This is in the summer.
Can you tell us what was that like the morning you got raided? Take us inside your house that morning.
Well, so they told me that they'd been staking out my home and they'd been watching my home. And so at the time I had 3 children that were ages 5 and under, and my wife was 9 months pregnant. So we almost had 4 children ages 5 and under. They literally watched my wife leave the home. She was going to her final doctor's appointment. She was due in 2 weeks, literally. And so they watched her leave the home. They knew I was home alone with my 3 children. And we have this big window in our living room. I looked out the window. I saw the media show up. And I was on the phone with somebody. And I said, man, something's going to go down. And they said, why? He said, the media's here. And he said, they've been there, which they have been. I said, yeah, but it's just different. They haven't been here all day. They just kind of popped up. I don't know. Just something's weird. And about 10, 15 minutes later, here come the feds rolling in, came in and arrested me. And, the hardest part of that whole process was, so I took my kids to the other room. I said, here's a tablet. Go play on the tablet while Daddy talks to his friends. So I called my grandparents, tried to call my wife, called my grandparents really quick because I saw them coming up the driveway. And so told them to get over here. And the hardest part was,
hey, if you don't, and they take you into custody, they're going to give your kids to Child Protective Services.
Well, and that was my concern. That was my only fear at the time. And so my neighbors, luckily I have really good neighbors. They're like family as well. They came over and saw my kids. My grandma finally got there. But anyways, they watch. I'm in the back of the SUV or whatever. I'm handcuffed, my hands, my feet. I think my feet. I don't know if my feet were cuffed at that time. Anyways, I know my hands are cuffed. I'm sitting in there in the SUV and I'm looking out and I see my little girl in that big window looking out and she's crying, wanting to know what's going on. Who are these people taking, Dad away from her? And that was absolutely heartbreaking to say the least. And so, it was rough, but back to the whole charges. So they added 2, then they said the other 2 misdemeanors. Then they said, you can, we offered you a plea. They offered me a verbal plea deal. Choose your misdemeanor. We'll drop the other charges. I said, send me the paperwork. I kind of want to see that. And then when you get the paperwork, that's not what you think it is. They want you to say that you were wrong. The election wasn't stolen. They want you to blame, President Trump for your actions, all these different things. And when ultimately we didn't reach a deal there, they then came back and, hit me. They withdrew that verbal plea offer and hit me with a 1512 obstruction of official proceeding, which is a 20-year felony, and it's unconstitutional. It doesn't fit for January 6th because the 1512, this is what they're using against all the January 6ers. They've even recommended this for President Trump. That was written during the early 2000s, insider bank trading with Enron and all of that.
Right.
That specific charge is all about tampering with a witness, and nobody tampered with a witness on January 6th, but it comes with a 20-year felony. So in that one phone call, I go from probably community service or a slap on the wrist or whatever to now I'm facing 24 years in prison. And that was a devastating phone call, to say the least.
So they wanted a specific allocution from you. They wanted you to not only say that this was Trump's fault, but they had like 3 or 4 bullet points.
Oh, yeah, they do this. They do this to a lot of people right now on January 6th. There's a lot of J6ers right now. A lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of J6ers that are currently getting hit with gag orders. Like I know of one person who can't speak about January 6th for 5 years. I know another J6er who for 3 years can't discuss. Not only can he not discuss January 6th, he's not allowed to use his own name, image, or likeness to profit from it. So he can't start like a podcast or something,
right?
And use his name, his image, or anything that people would know that, hey, that's the guy type of thing. They're doing that quite a bit to people right now.
Yeah, it sounds to me like they knew you were into politics. Obviously, you were in the House in West Virginia, and they wanted to not only ruin your career, but dirty up Trump as much as they could in the process. These tactics are just shameful. I just wanted to tell you, I feel like, and I know all of our audience will feel the same way. These tactics are reprehensible. They're for drug dealers and murderers, not for somebody who spent 10 minutes inside the people's house, I might remind the audience, filming and live streaming. Boy, what a horrible thing.
Well, what happened to me, you know, it is bad, but it's only scratching the surface compared to what they've done to some other people. I'm very, you know, it's crazy to think this, but I'm actually fortunate compared to some others as to what I've went through surrounding January 6th. It's absolutely, this is a humanitarian crisis as to what they're doing to conservatives right now in this country.
I think me, Romeo, and other people that are watching this are really amazed that you're not jaded about running for office and the government itself of the United States, especially the way they treated you and everything. Can you explain to us why you're not jaded?
Well, I mean, I guess I am a little bit, but the thing is, I understand after everything I've went through previously being elected, and then everything I've went through and trying to get help as well, you know, throughout this process, I've realized that politicians got us in this mess, and it's going to take patriots to get us out of this mess. So anybody out there who feels this same exact way, I hate the government. I love my country, but I hate the government. And so I think that we need more patriots to step up and run for all levels of office, everything from local school board all the way up through you know, governors and president, everything. We need more patriots, and that's the only way we're going to be able to do this. And I do it for my children. You know, we're truly in a battle right now for the future of this country. I tell everyone, yesterday it was the January 6th political prisoners such as myself. Today they're going after President Trump, parents who speak out at school board meetings, you know, anybody who says that men are men and women are women. They're going after all, people who post memes on social media are going to prison. But tomorrow, if they get away with all of this today, then tomorrow they're going to go after every single God-fearing American conservative across this country. That's their end goal. And so my fear is not what they can do to me. I've already experienced everything that they could do to me, I guess. My fear is being 70 so let me back up. So every generation has less freedom than the generation before. Every generation gives up a little bit of freedom. Unfortunately, your parents and your grandparents had more individual freedom and liberty than what we have today. And so if we kick this can down the road and we don't have the courage to stand up and fight today, sooner or later, the people are going to have to. And so my fear is that I'm 70 to 80 years old. I'm watching my children and grandchildren being forced to take on this battle that we didn't have the courage to take on today. And you're 70 to 80 years old saying, man, I wish I'd have done something then because I'm too old to do something about it now. That's my biggest fear. I go to bed every single night. I put my kids to bed. I look them in the eyes, and I know in my heart that I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to save this country for my children's generation.
Yeah, good deal. I look at things very similar to you. If we don't get patriots involved in, like when I went to high school, we said the Pledge of Allegiance over the loudspeaker every single morning. Now we have Marxists and socialists running. I mean, that's really why the country is in such trouble. The ideologies that are being adhered to in the administration of government will lead us into dark places. And you're right. It will only get worse for each progressive generation. If you want to figure that's 20 years or so, it's only going to get worse unless we stop it now. I am really, you know, I think that January 6th will be a badge of honor down the road for guys in your position. Guys who, you know, if you went there and you hurt somebody and got in fistfights even, that's a different story. But for the guys who went and peacefully protested, I think down the road that the whole way the American people look at this is going to be different. Now, if you listen to the mainstream media, you would think that everyone involved in January 6th was, you know, a horrid person. But that's just not necessarily so.
Well, the government has officially, literally, this is not hyperbole, like they've officially labeled us as domestic terrorists. And so I always tell people, look, there were bad people who did bad things on January 6th. There were good people who did dumb things on January 6th. But by and large, January 6th was, quote unquote, a mostly peaceful protest. But they've literally labeled all of us as domestic terrorists. We've been debanked from every major bank you can think of. Can't have an account or anything like that. because they don't want to bank with terrorists. When I fly, I'm on the Quad S list, which is the highest classification you can have and still hop on an airplane. That finally got removed here recently, but I mean, it's not just the J6ers, it's family members as well who are going through this. It's absolutely insane how they are truly targeting conservatives, and we always say that the process is part of the punishment.
I got a question about the seat you're running for. You want to tell us a little bit more about that seat, the location is at, what state, and so on and so forth?
Yeah. It's the West Virginia's 1st congressional district. It's the southern part of West Virginia. Look, this is one of the reddest districts in the entire country. This is not a district where we deserve a rhino representing us. This is a district where we deserve a Matt Gaetz, a Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Clay Higgins, somebody like that who's going to stand on the national stage beside of President Trump and beat the drum of freedom, not only for West Virginia, but beat the drum of freedom for all conservatives across this country. That's exactly what I plan to do, and that's what I have been doing, and that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do.
Who are you running against in the primary?
So the seat is currently held by Congresswoman Carol Miller, has a D rating with the Liberty score in one of the reddest districts in the entire country. Lots of bad votes, sending all of our money to Ukraine, has voted to force our military members to receive the COVID vaccine, supported all the COVID lockdowns and the tyranny, has refused to endorse President Trump so far in the 2024 election. Look, once again, she's a nice lady. I'm sure she's an excellent grandmother. This is not a time for weak politicians. This is not a time for patty cake politics. This is a time for patriots to step up and be willing to not only say the things and do the things that's required to save this country, but are willing to accept the consequences that are going to come from that. And I can just tell you firsthand, after everything I've went through, it's not easy, it's not fun, and there's not a lot of people who are built and willing to do this. And to be honest with you, had I known everything that was going to happen to my family and I post January 6th, I don't know what I would have done. It's been a totally different, thought process and scenario of actually making a conscious effort to get into this sort of fight. But now that I'm here and I've already had a taste of it, I can just tell you that, I understand the importance of it. I'm willing to accept the challenges and the consequences as long as we're able to save this country.
I agree with you. It's why I got involved in doing these podcasts. The same reason. We can't sit back and be quiet, because if we do that, we'll lose the republic. So you would call yourself an America First candidate then?
Oh, 100% America First. I tell everybody, and look, I'm not shy about anything that I believe in or anything I stand for. I tell everybody all the time, I'm not running. Let me back up. I never had any intentions of running for federal office ever. I already had a huge following before January 6th here in the state of West Virginia. We have citizen legislators. It's a 60-day session. So it's January and February, maybe like the first part of March. It's a 60-day session. There's a few things outside of that, but that was primarily the session. So you can serve in local politics, state politics, and still be a husband and a father and a soccer coach, football coach, basketball coach. You can still be home to do all those things. Plus, I wanted to protect my family from the nastiness of the national media and the national politics. But after they came to my home and drugged me to the middle of the swamp and already drug our family through everything, and you look around and it's like, well, that part's over with. We're already here now. We might as well stand up and fight back. And then when you start really seeing just how big the swamp is, how deep it is, and how powerful and corrupt it is, you realize that a lot of people don't know. They really, I can't even put it into words how corrupt this whole thing is right now after everything I've went through. Right. I just know that we got to take it down. So I tell everybody, I'm not running to make friends. I'm not running to try to make a political career. I'm not going to, when I do get elected, I'm not going to go there to play patty cake politics and go along to get along. I'm going to kick in the damn front door and we're going to expose corruption.
Do you think that Joe Biden won an illegitimate election in 2020?
No, I put out a statement that literally the day I got out of prison, I put out a statement and said, and I've said this multiple times since then, they stole the election from not only President Trump, but from the American people. That's and right. Then our spineless jellyback rhinos in Congress, who all talk a big game and love to send out fundraising emails, didn't have the courage to actually step up and do anything about this. So the American people got frustrated. We had to go and actually, scream and chant and make our voices heard peacefully, which we did on January 6th. And then the government turned around and arrested all of us who had the courage to stand up and speak out against the tyranny that we find ourselves living under today. And I said then, and I say now, they threw me in prison. They threw me in solitary confinement because I had the courage to stand up against the stolen election. But no amount of prison time will change the facts that Trump won 2020.
I got what do you think about Mike Johnson releasing the J6 tapes and how it looks like it's destroying the J6 narrative now that the committee made?
Well, first of all, thank you to Speaker Johnson for releasing the tapes, out to the mayor, which they're still rolling out. But I think we can say he's made good on that promise. He's already started that process, and I think it says a lot. I think it really shows the difference in him and Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy is a globalist, uniparty, warmongering, politician, and it seems to me that Speaker Johnson, even if you don't agree with him on everything, seems to me like he's a man who's going to keep his word, and he's a man of the people, if you will. And I think that's a huge, refreshing difference in the previous speaker and our current speaker. We got to give a lot of credit to Matt Gaetz and the 8 members who had the courage to step up and replace Kevin McCarthy, who's always going to be remembered as the first, if not the only speaker to be removed as Speaker of the House, because he didn't have the courage to keep the promises that he made in order to become Speaker to begin with, such as releasing the January 6th footage. But I think it's absolutely awesome to get the truth out there. I've said it from day one, as all the other J6ers have as well. We want the footage released, not to select journalists. We wanted the footage released open source, the way that Speaker Johnson is doing it, to the public, for everyone to watch it for themselves, because I think it's important for people to see the full truth. And the next thing I'd like to see them release is the body cam footage as well with audio. I think that would be important to get released. So there's a long ways to go here, but I'm very thankful that we made a huge step in the right direction. And then the last thing I'll say is the January 6th sham committee members who knowingly and purposely suppressed this video footage that Speaker Johnson is releasing showing the truth about January 6th, and they knowingly and purposely hired Hollywood producers to come in and amp up the sound and to fix all this up, to spin this narrative.
To wag the dog.
They should be thrown in prison right now. They should be arrested, thrown in prison, and they can sit in solitary confinement while we investigate their crimes against this country, the same way that the January 6th political prisoners have been forced to sit in solitary confinement in pretrial detention. Those scumbags can sit in solitary confinement in pretrial detention as well.
See, you see the January 6th committee as a total and utter sham.
Complete sham. The whole thing's a sham. It's worse than a sham. A sham would be if they didn't, if they just they had their views were twisted, and they were maybe doing this not knowingly, unknowingly doing this just because they were they're so deranged with the Trump deranged syndrome.
Out of ignorance.
This is out of ignorance. What they have done is criminal. What they have done is, I don't know if it's treason, it's borderline, or some term, I'm sure. What they've done is absolutely criminal. They've committed crimes against this country, because not only did they do this to the J6ers and the people, they used their position in Congress and their platform to spin a narrative to completely change the dynamics of the entire country and how they think about this day. And it's going to, and it has shaped the future mindset surrounding that day in our country. What they've done is criminal. The January 6th sham committee members should be arrested. They should be charged. They should be prosecuted, and their butts should sit in solitary confinement while we figure this out, the same way the January 6th political prisoners have.
Yeah, like you said before, how the process is part of the punishment. Absolutely. We have a small group of Democrats and rhinos who broke every existing law, every existing norm with the way we apply our laws to, really come down. I look at the Oath Keepers, the guys who got 2 decades in prison. I understand what you were saying before. Like, you made out all right. You didn't get treated like they did. I just, I can't even imagine that we've got guys in jail sentenced to 2 decades in prison for really essentially no more than you did.
Well, some of them even less. Some of them weren't even in D.C. They were just in a group chat. They didn't even go to D.C., let alone the Capitol. They weren't even there. They just happened to post in a group chat that they think that Joe Biden stole the election from President Trump, basically, is what it comes down to, and that they were hoping that President Trump, called in the Insurrection Act or whatever. They never said that they were going to do it. They said that if Trump does it, then we're going to stand by our president. And furthermore, how can President Trump, how could they charge him with insurrection when he's the commander in chief? How do you insurrect yourself? People are forgetting that on January 6th, regardless of whether Biden won or not, which we know he didn't, but regardless, that's irrelevant in this argument. On January 6th, President Trump was still the commander in chief because Biden wasn't inaugurated until January 20-something or whatever.
Even
So
the
on
FBI
January
says
6th, he can't insurrect himself. He is the commander in chief.
Right.
So even if
the
he did lose the
FBI
election,
has said that.
yeah,
The FBI has said there was not an insurrection.
correct.
So, and believe me, the FBI is no friend to the people.
No.
So if they're saying that it wasn't an insurrection,
I'm a fan of defunding and abolishing all three-letter agencies, starting with the FBI and the Department of Education.
do you think that if Trump gets back in, that he will let January 6th political prisoners out?
I have no doubt that there will be pardons issued on day one.
I agree. And I can't wait because I feel so terrible for all of these men and women who are locked up right now unjustly.
Before we end the interview, I wanted to ask you, what can our viewers, what can we do to help you win your primary?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for having me on here. And, I want everybody to understand this is a real campaign. We have not spent a single dollar in our district campaigning yet. And we're polling at 45% against a 6-year incumbent. These are not internal my polls or anything like that. This is media statewide polls. We're polling at 45%. It's the closest race in the entire country for someone challenging an incumbent in a primary race. We're raising good money. This is a real campaign. We'd love to have your help. If you want to go over to our website, evansforwv.com, or follow me on social media, Evans for WV on Twitter. You guys can go over there, throw in $5-10 if you want to do that. Even that small amount helps more than you can imagine. It's going to help us reach people on digital, ads, as well as it allows us to go to the larger donors. And so we got this many donors who's already donated to us. The numbers in terms of the amount of donors really matter as well. And if you don't want to do that, you can volunteer to help our campaign. We're going to start kicking off what we're calling the Patriot Freedom Tour. We're going to travel throughout the southern through our district here, and we're going to share the story about January 6th. We're going to share the truth about the weaponization of government. We're going to talk about the issues that we're running on. We're going to answer questions from the people in our district. We're looking for people right now who are willing to phone bank, and maybe we're going to this specific county or this town, to help call the voters in that area and personally on our behalf invite them to come out and meet with our team in person. And you can text as well. So we got a lot of ways you can help volunteer if you want to do that. And then last but not least, if you don't want to do all those things, at the very least, add us to your prayer list. This is spiritual warfare. This is good versus evil. We have to remember that. We have to stay focused on that. And so prayers are always appreciated.
You're polling at 45% right now. What is your opponent at, the incumbent?
Yeah, so she's just north of 50%, but there's not any they didn't have an option for undecided. So but like I said, we've done some other internal polling where we include some information such as the media polls has her name and my name. When we do some internal polling where we include she's the incumbent who's voted for this, and we are the January 6th political prisoner, Derrick Evans, we are winning by around 11 points in those polls.
I was going to say, I mean,
so we know that if we can raise the money, so our goal now that we know that information is if we can raise the money to get that messaging out about her votes and make sure everybody knows that my story, then we're going to win, because everybody remembers the story. I was all over the news for days and months and probably years, honestly, surrounding January 6th, but it was so long ago. A lot of people remember, oh yeah, that's the January 6th guy. Once they're told, they're like, oh yeah, we love that guy. But we got to get them to the point where as soon as they see my name, they're like, that's the January 6th guy. I'm voting for that guy. If we can get to that, if we can raise the money to get our message out on those two issues, we're going to win. It's going to be awesome. And then also, I want everybody to know, we're endorsed by Mike Lindell. We're endorsed by General Flynn. We're endorsed by Veterans for Trump, Laura Loomer. We've got a lot of big names that we're working on some others right now. So we've already got some pretty big endorsements behind us as well.
That's
totally
great.
Awesome. Well, guys, before we end the show, check out the links below. You can find where you can donate to him and find out and see all of his links and stuff like that. And Romeo, you get the last word.
Yeah, definitely. Like he said, throw $5 or $10 in there. We all need to do that. Help him get some name recognition because he's right there on the cusp of winning it right now, and going against an incumbent is difficult. So let's help him get there.
And the other thing I forgot to mention, also share this out because this will help them as well. More people that get eyes on this video and see the links, and also see him and what he is campaigning for, and what he wants to do is save America. It's very important for you to share this out and also hit like and comment.
It was an honor to sit here with you today, and you're such a patriot, and we thank you for stopping by. Hopefully we'll talk to you again before the election.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on today. I really appreciate you guys and platforms such as this, who's allows us to have the opportunity to speak and share our platform. So thank you guys for having me on.